Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find out this is what happens on Thanksgiving. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find out what we do at officehours.global. If you've got questions, we've got questions. All we're doing is questions. It's Thanksgiving. I've got my Lindsay plaid on, so it's officially the holidays. This is not my Christmas. People are like, why is he wearing Christmas on Thanksgiving? It's not. It's my family tartan. So anyway.
The clan tartan.
The clan tartan.
It's the green and the red.
Yeah, I know. So, but it does mean that LL Bean makes our shirt every couple of years so that we get really good versions of our tartan. Anyway, so if you have got questions, go ahead and throw them in. You can throw them in using this little QR code here. This is, or you can just go to askofficehours.global and ask those questions any time of the day. So anytime you think of them, I have a question, you can just throw them right in immediately using askofficehours.global, and then we feed them all into the show in the morning. And so, and I think that we'll try to figure out how to just let us know when we've handed it off to Bill. I think there was a confusion about who's hosting. Bill should host today, and so I think that so anyway. So but it doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and jump into the first question. Let's go ahead to the question, Mitch.
I thought I was hosting. First question, Alex, is from.
Not only is it,
I'm not hosting, but it's my question. So here it comes. As it's Thanksgiving in the U.S., what are you most thankful for over the past year?
Go ahead, Mitchell.
Oh, I'm up. I'm happy to be here, right here with my friends and the folks that support us every day. That's a very serious thing. For a while I wasn't, and now I am, and I'm very thankful for that. So I'll call that as my favorite thing this year.
Go ahead, John.
I'm most thankful for my beautiful wife who's standing right here doing dishes so I can be on the show and hang out with you guys.
Courtney.
I'm most thankful that I saved enough money during my working years to buy all the junk that we see on this show and try it out so you folks don't have to.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I would have been in my earlier years thankful for all of the equipment and things like that allow me to do this. But as I get older, I realize it ain't the stuff ever. It's the people. So again, I'm thankful for Office Hours. Alex, thank you so much for beginning this, because in the beginning of the pandemic, I think all of us kind of felt like, oh, our lives are shutting down. Maybe for a few months. Remember those early days? And then all of a sudden, Chris Fenwick pinged me and said, this thing is happening. And the next thing you know, I'm in this. And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed being here. And it's the people. It's all these years. I'm thinking back, many people who were here early and then are gone now from all over the planet. And it feels like friendships and connections would not have been anywhere close to what they are in my life now if it hadn't been for this. And the expansion of technology and the way that it connects individuals that otherwise wouldn't spend time together. So I'm thankful for this. I'm amazingly thankful for my wife, without whom none of this becomes possible. And even for Charlie, my dog, for keeping me, having somebody who unconditionally cares for me every single minute of existence.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
And nicely said, Bill, by the way. I'm thankful that Wegmans' last turkey meal was held for me, so I can go pick it up after the show.
Very good. And I'm definitely thankful for just this community in my family and just communities. I mean, I think that it's the people in your life, hopefully, that are making a difference. And anyway, so I'm definitely very thankful every Thanksgiving. So, and I think that, it's this, I will say specifically for this community, I'm known for kind of doing something and going, okay, I've done it. And then I move on. Like I don't really stick around. And I kind of move through life going through different things. And I find it fascinating that this was really still effortless. Like I get up in the morning. I mean, there's a little bit of a rush today. I slept in a little bit, so it's a little bit of a rush. But it's a rush, but it's still fun. I get to go hang out with the crew and talk about things that I really enjoy talking about with people that are worth talking with. Like just really fun to be with, and both in Discord and on the show and so on and so forth. So it's just really, and I've never had a community so big. like I usually have at any given time, I have a community. I used to have like a community of 3, people. There'd be like my family, and then there'd be a handful of people that I hung out with. And to have such a great community that's so large is really, I don't take it for granted. Next question.
And it's coming in from Paul Wallace in Hot Springs, Arkansas. For a mesh network in a large home, what is best? The Netgear Orbi RBKE963 Wi-Fi 6E mesh, or the Eero Pro E6, or something else? Underline best.
I'll hand it to you, Bill. I'll give you the honors there.
Oh, okay. Courtney, you're up first.
I don't use the mesh networks because I've tried them and don't like them. My best, the best
Tell
thing
us
that
how
I
you really
do,
feel.
yeah, the best thing I would go with is none of the above, and which is to take 2 wireless access points, 2 good routers that are Wi-Fi 6, and put one downstairs in the middle of the house that is pretty strong and can serve everything, and that has both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, and maybe even 6. And one run an Ethernet cable upstairs and have a second one or another part of the house. I know you've got a big house now there in Hot Springs. Run a second or maybe a third if you have to upstairs, so that you still have wireless coverage over your house, but 2 different access points. Name them something different so you know which one you're on, which one you want to hook up to. And that's worked for me because I've put a separate one for the upstairs, and I hook out all the Internet of Things stuff to the upstairs one, and the downstairs one I hook to the downstairs, and it's worked quite well. Mesh networks I've had bad luck with. There's a lot of interference, a lot of people, neighbors that are nearby that I don't know, they just get swamped.
Alex?
I hate mesh networks, and I have one. I can tell you that I do not like them. They're very unstable, and so they're not nearly the same as having a Wi-Fi network or a wired network. So, I mean, if you think your Wi-Fi network is a little unstable, get a mesh network, and then you'll really learn what it's like to just have everything not quite work all the time. And it just has not been the thing that I've invested time. It's been good enough that I kind of limp through, and partially because my house has so much Ethernet already built into it that a lot of the things that matter to me are connected over Ethernet. But I wouldn't buy it again. And so I would really look at getting a couple access points like Courtney.
John Pretto.
-3 on the mesh networks. I used to be in the Wi-Fi business. After you use a industrial grade Wi-Fi, and in this case, I would go with Ubiquiti. After looking at everything that's out there and the price cost, Ubiquiti Dream Machine router, and then their Wi-Fi access points out to each drop that you want coverage, and that's the way to go.
There you go. Mitchell, are you in line with everybody else?
Sort of. I guess I agree. Paul, I have the Orbi Netgear that you were mentioning there. And as a mesh network, I guess it's doing pretty well. But as a Wi-Fi connection, it's okay. It's not great. I live in a condo, and there's a lot of people vying for different frequencies at different times. I wish I could go back to my old airport. The airport seemed to work very well back in the day. Maybe it's because there are less people using them, but that's what I like the most.
Yeah, I still have an airport up in the corner of my room here, and that's what I'm using to get the wired network here in my office off to the bedroom and things like that. It's okay. I just think all of them that rely on Wi-Fi meshes or leave something to be desired. I have the same experience everybody else here does. Let's go to the next question.
Scott Hancock in Tokyo. Following on yesterday's conversation, do we wonder if Apple could sell even more units of an iCam 16? Would the many people at the aspiring level of production buy more of them, if not paying for the phone hardware?
And it seems like he's talking iCam 16 as the next iPhone, actually. Alex, what do you think?
It really is an iCam right now. A couple of things. One is it's hard to get your head around the sheer size of the number of sales of iPhones. I don't remember what the number is, but it's in the 75 million or something like that. We're just, as filmmakers, we are a drop in the bucket, in this world. And so I don't think it would make any significant change to their sales. It would mean that they'd have to build a SKU for Apple, a very small number. So building SKUs, companies building SKUs for small numbers of people is really inefficient for them. And so I remember talking to someone who makes cameras, and I was trying to sell them on this idea of a newfangled camera, and they said, "Do you think we can sell 2,000 of them? Because we can't even turn this crank unless we can sell 2,000." I said, "I think you make it profitable. It doesn't matter." Like they were like, "Doesn't matter. We have to sell 2,000," and that's a small company compared to Apple. So in this case, Apple would probably have to think, we can guarantee the sale of 10 to 15 million of these, and I just don't think there's that many people that are that geeky about it. Also, having the cell in it, not necessarily for phone calls, but having cellular so that you can stream from your iCam 16 or whatever is pretty advantageous. I don't think a lot of people would choose it even if it was available.
Mitchell?
Scott, I don't think that you're going to see a huge drop in price if they were to eliminate the phone part. I did mention this yesterday when we were talking this, but they could do like buy your iPhone and get the phone for free for a limited time only.
Courtney?
Well, I'll tell you, the peer pressure of a status-seeking teen sells millions more iPhones than a budding young Steven Spielberg who wants to use it as a camera. I think that Apple has found the magic secret.
They've nailed it.
Tons of phones.
Boy,
that is it.
It's an amazing thing that we talked about it a couple times, but we've talked about it on a couple shows. 87% of kids under 18 right now are on an iPhone. Like it's in the United States. It definitely changes overseas, but that's
Bombay. They've all got the Android phones.
Yeah, exactly. But
and the amount of money Apple keeps putting into the camera section astonishes me. In fact, my wife woke me up this morning and said there's a sunrise come, and we grabbed a quick shot of it. But to have that good quality camera with all that automation in it that handles exposure in very difficult circumstances, like you're trying to shoot, a sunrise. It's just astonishing. No wonder people are using them so much and love them so much, and why they put so many engineers and so much effort into the camera sections. It's astonishing.
Looks like Oppenheimer set the atmosphere on fire again.
Yeah, I know, doesn't it? That's not. It's more orange on my iPad, which is more color accurate. I'm still trying to figure out how to get a better feed out of my older iPad Pro into the show, but regardless, it is a tough call for a camera to split exposure that much, because you probably can't see it in this picture. But the golf course on my iPad is actually noticeably green. The mid-tone detail below in the mountains and the houses is solid. And then you're shooting into a sunrise with a lot of light, and it all worked together to make a satisfying picture automatically. Pretty impressive. Let's go on to the next question.
Alan Cavato from Richmond, Virginia asks, how do you get the office hours Zoom stream into YouTube Live? And this is a QR code question.
It is, Alex.
So we're not streaming from Zoom. We can, but we don't stream from Zoom. We're using, I believe it's an Osprey Talon. I believe it's but Osprey. It looks a lot like, if I have one, I have the Amazon one around here somewhere. Anyway, it is. It's a small box about this big, but it's this Osprey, and it takes, so there's a huge amount of hardware that is basically doing all the cuts and the graphics and everything else, and it feeds that last little bit out to this little box that streams it to YouTube. So that's how we get it into YouTube.
There you go. Next question.
From Paul Wallace in Hot Springs, Arkansas. On my Netgear Nighthawk Device Manager interface, there are two iPhones connected on the network map. One has the name of the device, and the other says unnamed dev. How do I get the unnamed dev to show up with a name like the other iPhone?
Alex.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you are. I'm assuming that you're. That these are both your phones. This is not like some random other phone that's there. If it is, then you have to think about that. That's a problem. But otherwise, what you want to do is go into your settings and then go to General. And then at the very top, you'll see About. And when you click on About, the very first thing is your iPhone name. That is the name that's going to show up on the network. So if you that should be what how it identifies itself to the network. So anyway, mine has my phone version because I've got a bunch of phones floating around, and that it's mine because I got a bunch of family phones floating around, and then I know which one is which.
Happy Thanksgiving, Paul, and you broke my brain when you said unnamed dev, because it's not unnamed, it's dev. I'm totally confused. My brain almost locked up on that one. Let's go on to the next question.
Graham Cardwell from Northern Ireland asks, Happy Thanksgiving, all. Looking at Black Friday action cam deals, both the Insta360 One RS 4K, not the twin with 360, and GoPro Hero 9 fit my budget. Which of these two would you buy and why?
Alex.
I would buy the Insta360 I think that a lot of their stuff has been really, really solid, and I just haven't had a great experience with GoPros since about five or six. I can't remember which one, where I bought the next one, and I just was like, I can't keep buying these. The interface isn't getting any better. The camera's getting less stable. So I would, if I was picking between those two, I'd probably, and the Insta360 stuff is built really well. So there you go.
Let's go to the next question.
Another QR code coming in from Tim McMillan in Poughkeepsie, New York. Tim says, I'm thankful for the Office Hours team for producing the best show on the internet every day. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Tim. Thank you for saying that. And I feel, even as an insider who's been here since the beginning, I'm still gobsmacked by the community here and the number of talented people who are doing this. Alex?
Yeah, I think that what's amazing is that it is really a show that is really everyone's putting together. If you're watching this right now and you're asking questions through either through the QR code, or you're asking them in Mukana, we have people who are running the show, managing the show. We put this show together as a team every single day. So it's really an amazing experience. Thanks.
Absolutely. Next question.
From Burkhard Friedrich from Easterberg, Germany. I want to get audio out only for my playoutbee version 2 in regards of quality. Would it be better to use the 3.5 millimeter jack of the Raspberry Pi or an HDMI audio extractor like this?
And he's got a link there to something called an audio extractor. Alex, do you have familiarity?
I think you could probably get away with the 3.5 millimeter jack. I haven't used that extractor. The only thing I would say is that, the best quality you're going to get out of it is take it out of the HDMI and have something that's going to de-embed the HDMI to a balanced audio output. And maybe this is it. I wasn't quite able to open it up there. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I have an audio extractor that I use to take the output of my ATEM Mini and get it into my Rodecaster Pro, so I can go out with a couple of RCA jacks, which is a little bit better cable. They're still unbalanced, but at least they're not the coaxial 3.5 millimeter connector. And you do have a lot more control over it. I can control the volume a little better because it has left and right control on the signal levels. So that's what I do, and I like the extractor better than pulling it directly out.
Alex, you want to get back in on this? Whoops,
yeah, and unless you're getting a, I would say that if you're getting an unbalanced output, I think you're probably in a very similar space with the box or the 3.5 millimeter. I don't know if it would buy you much. So
let's go to the next question.
Jason Robershaw from Sarasota, Florida asks, besides tuning in and participating in office hours, obviously, what other tips and tricks can you recommend for making working remotely less isolating?
Courtney.
Well, be on the panel and participate in a two-way conversation because that makes you feel a little less isolated. Watching it is always my favorite thing to do, but participating is even better. So come on the panel.
Alex?
Yeah, or after hours. And we're going to be doing more projects as we go into next year. I think that I don't have a lot of other places that I make it less isolating. Like I'm not, and so I don't know if I know how to make that better. I don't find it that I think I'm so used to our community that I don't interact with that many other ones. And so I have a couple online, a couple Discord communities that I'm part of, but that's about it. So I think that being more, the best thing to do is to try to, the more you jump into things like after hours or jump onto the panel, as Courtney said, what happens is it's not just that you get to see us, your people get to know you. And that changes the state of how what the rest of office hours looks like when you're on a panel and you're providing, answers and being part of that conversation. You're more well known within the entire community, and it definitely changes how people interact with you, and more people will just say hi. More people will reach out to you to be part of that. Whatever they're working on. So I would recommend, if you feel like you have those skills that you want to use there on the panel, I'd recommend thinking about it. And I know that you do a lot of great work there, so you're thinking hard about those questions. But yeah, we're going to be doing more kind of group projects as we go into 2024. So stay tuned for that as well.
Courtney. You want to do a follow-up?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that communicate in chat through Mukana, because that's a good way to talk back and forth to the other people that are watching the show, so you feel more inclusive and you can have your individual opinions that may be contrary to ours. And post them in
We
chat.
hope so. I always like it when somebody says, no, I think you're wrong about that, because it leads to discussion, and discussion leads to knowledge. I read something this morning when I woke up. Somebody had done a really nice tribute to Jimmy Buffett, the late singer-songwriter who really affected so many people and had such an unusual and amazing life. And in one of his early songs, I remember he talked about the difference between, this is from the point of view of somebody sitting on stage doing the show, people who come to watch the show and people who come to put on the show. And if you can find it in your lifestyle to do even little adjacent things and get to know the people who put on the shows, they're very good. Most of us, and I'm going to keep myself in that, are kind of very good at not getting bored. we tend to have short attention spans. We tend to like a lot of stimulation, and we want a lot of incoming stuff. So we go seek out opportunities to learn. And I can't think of a better learning opportunity in the modern world than what Alex has created here in office hours. So whether it's here or something else, just don't be passive, sit at home and watch the world go by. Sometimes stand up and do a little of it, and you'd be surprised at how rapidly your friend group and your life kind of, I think, gets more interesting. To each their own. Next question.
Nicely said, Bill. Next question coming in from Paul Wallace at Hot Springs, Arkansas. What is the most robust tent, around 16 by 32 feet, for an outdoor production that lasts several weeks with heavy weather and high winds, lightning, hail, etc.?
Oh my gosh, Mitchell, what would you want to be inside of?
Etc. Paul, where the heck are you? I would be very careful about pitching a tent that the public would be in where they have high winds. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe there's some specially ones made for the Arctic, but I would be very careful.
Alex.
Yeah, I would definitely be careful about these tents. Now, Uline makes event tents. What you're looking for is an event tent. This is going to have either water or other things that you're going to pour into it, pour into the base at every pole. So every pole is based either in or strung to to some kind of counterweight that typically it's water. They come in empty, and then you pour water into them, and then it's heavy, and it doesn't move anywhere. And that's going to be what you're looking for, is something that does that. You can't use it for what you're listing. You're not going to be able to use anything else. When you say high winds, you just got to be careful. There's a lot of bad things that can happen if people are in tents with high winds, and so you just want to. The safety of that is something you want to think hard about. If it was me, and I've done a lot of these, I would rent it. Like, I would not try to buy, because what I'm talking about, the kind of tent that I'm talking about that's going to withstand this starts at about $5,000 and will go up to about $10,000, and you can rent them for almost nothing. Like, so you may, a 3-week rental might cost you $600 or $800, so depending on where you are. So I would be much more tempted to rent it, because then someone's going to come and they're going to pick it up, and they're going to do all the work for you and everything else, and it's all going to just be fine. But even then, at high, I wouldn't worry as much about. I don't know about lightning, but lightning could be a problem. You don't want people outside when there's lightning in general. Then there's a lot of metal in this thing, so it's going to be a big antenna. So if you see lightning, you should disperse. In my opinion,
Run away.
Run
Not like
for
you're not.
the hills.
Run away.
It's I'm in danger. Anyway, so anyway, that's someone who's been nearly next to a tree when it got hit. It's hard to picture how much power is in a lightning bolt until it hits a tree. I was in a car, and we were maybe 15 feet from a tree. And fortunately, because you're in a car, you're actually insulated because of the tires. And so so we got to watch the lightning bolt just tear a tree in half when all the bark came off of it as it got hit. And it was so loud and so powerful, and it gave me an entirely different respect for lightning after seeing it close up without having it kill me. I was able to, tell the tale that, wow, that's a lot of power. So anyway, I would be careful of lightning. Hail shouldn't be a problem in most cases. Even the softball size that you get in Colorado probably won't go through the tent, an event tent. It's pretty thick. High winds I would worry about. It'll take good wind, but I don't know. Like, once you get over, I don't know what you mean by high winds. At 30 miles an hour, it should be fine. At anything higher than that, you don't want to be in a tent with wind over 30 miles an hour. Those are my.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If I was charged with doing this, one of the first things I do is try to find somebody who'd been around Cirque du Soleil, because they bring these huge tent events around the country. And I would imagine, first of all, they probably spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more than that, designing something to have a public presence for 2 weeks on site. But one of the things I did notice is that most of the time, their tents are constructed with really high poles, so there are a lot of really high and then a swoop down from that. And I realized looking at one when I went to see a Cirque du Soleil adventure, that's probably about water dispersion. Because the last thing you want, the thing that has always crushed pop-ups and things like that for me, is when something gets loose and water pools in the top of the tent, because the weight of that water grows so rapidly that it can literally crush the tent. So I think I definitely talk to somebody who does this regularly and knows all those safety factors. Courtney?
Oh, yeah. Here's the thing. If you take several of these and strap them together, these bouncy houses make great. And it's inflatable. It's inflatable. So when you crash to the ground, it cushions your fall after you get sucked up into the tornado.
Watch the kids. You're just watching the kids, like they're just tossing in they're tossing the kids. Yeah.
The resiliency of youth.
I just saw a video where someone's like they're videotaping a storm, and then about half or maybe a quarter mile away, you just see a trampoline flying through the air, just like rolling through the air. And they're like, "What is that?" They're like, "Oh no," So anyway,
let's go to the next. Oh, go ahead.
By the way, one of my pastimes, I will say, as we're getting into the things that can go wrong, I do like to watch Fail Army. It reminds me of all the ways things can go horribly wrong. Like it's just, and it's a little bit of it's important to, if you haven't seen Fail Army, it's literally 10 minutes a day of just bad things happening. Like, and some of them are minor and some of them are, no one dies in them, I think most of the time. But I think that most of the time, but I think that I always find it to be philosophically a good lesson. Like, this could all go horribly wrong really quickly. And my tendencies towards wanting to be safe are turned up a little bit, and I think it's healthy. So anyway, I would take a look at it. But it's not for the faint at heart. There's a lot of, It's amazing how bad things can go really quickly. Like, and it's just weird things. Like, you're just like, oh, this will be funny, and then the house, half of the house.
Alex,
falls down.
we got to have a talk after the show, please.
Okay, there you go.
I love those YouTube videos of kind of like the Rube Goldberg of failure, where one little thing goes bad, the fireworks starts this little fire, and the next thing you know, the whole house is engulfed after 10 stages. It's crazy. Next question.
Vic Sinise from Lowell, Indiana. Amazon has a Sony ZV-1F for $398 Black Friday price, $100 savings, 20-millimeter fixed lens, a 1-inch sensor. I'm looking for an HDMI camera for streaming and 1080p. Your thoughts?
Alex.
Solid camera. Like, it's a good camera. It's going to have good autofocus, which is going to make it a lot easier. The slightly larger sensor is going to give you a little bit of, not quite the same amount of bokeh that you see here, but a little bit of bokeh there that you can work with. So there are, it's a good camera. If you could go a little higher or go used, you can get Sonys that are Super 35. The 60, I think the 6200 or 6900 or 6600. I don't know. There's so many numbers, but there are some, and up at the $800 range, there's the I have one laying here. The Z10, I think it's the
E10.
E10. I can't keep ZV E10. I'd love to talk to. I'd love to interview someone at Sony about their naming conventions, just to figure out what the thought process was there. But anyway, the E10, the ZV E10 is I've used, and it works really well, and it's a Super 35. The only bummer about that one is it doesn't let you load LUTs. So that's the only thing that you give up there. Go ahead, Mitchell. I'm sorry. It's Bill's show. I was like, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, go ahead.
No harm, no foul.
I don't go until Bill tells me to go. Bill?
Oh,
Bill,
such
am I up?
power. Mitch,
I would
please.
be concerned about heating, because those cameras, the lower-end Sony cameras, do generate heat if you're going to use them as a webcam. And the A series definitely get hot. You need one with a fan in it. I don't think the ZV-1F has a fan. I think the first thing you're going to hit with a fan would be the FX30 or the FX3. And that's the thing you need to have. So you're going to save money, but you also may have something you can't leave on all the time.
And I've been a little negligent in not getting this earlier, but do remember that we've got 2 full hours of Q&A today, which means that if you haven't put your questions in, if you have questions, we will go as long as you want us to go up until the top of the second hour after we finish 2 full hours. So if you have questions and you want to pop them in, it's a good day to do that. You can do it off the QR code little thing that we put up in the corner of the screen various times during the show. We can also, there it is down there. We can also have you just type in at office hours. What is it? What I can't see it on here. Let's see. Boy, I can't read that.
AskOfficeHours.global.
AskOfficeHours.global. Thank you, Alex. And that'll take care of it. Let's go to the next question.
From John Foltz in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. 2 years ago, Office Hours was a fire hose of info. I couldn't keep up. Since then, I learned and tried so many new things with the help from, here's the list, Pretto, Mickey, Fenwick, Guy, Jeff, Courtney, Sabato, et al. Thanks for giving.
That's very nice of you to say, John. And thank you for all your questions over the years. We've read your name out dozens of times on the show, so you've been a big part of the success of helping this show continue every day, as has everybody who contributes questions every day on Office Hours, and we are appreciative of every one of you who interacts with the show. Let's move to the next. Oh, I'm sorry. Courtney wanted to get in on this. Courtney?
I was just going to say thanks for watching and thanks for giving us questions, because if you didn't watch or give us questions, it'd be a pretty short show and we wouldn't need to show up anyway.
That's right. Alex?
Yeah, to go back to what we talked about, it really is the one show where everybody's involved or everybody can be involved. It's not everyone. You know, the funny thing is that I look at the stats every day and there's about 250 to 500 people total that watch every day live. That's live, and then more people watch later. There's we range anywhere from about 90 to about 150 concurrent, but the total number of people that came in at some point in time during the show runs between about 250 to 500, and it's kind of an amazing thing. If you're watching that and you're watching live and you haven't asked questions, ask officehours.global. That's all I got to say. All right,
there you go. Moving on to the next one.
And the next one is from Douglas Carmichael. Would a 64 gigabyte M3 Mac be sufficient for experimenting with locally run LLMs, or would I need more RAM?
Here's a John Pretto question. John?
Are you ready for a new acronym now? Small language models, which have been released into the wild now. Microsoft is at Ignite last week, touted some small language models. So there's a bunch of activity going in on device for smaller models running on device. And so 64 meg on an M3 Max is fine to run some of the stuff that's happening right now. There's tons of stuff on Hugging Face that you can run right now. I run Llama on my local machine. I have 64 gigs of memory on it. It runs fine. It's still slow. After you get used to, GPT-4, everything else is slow by comparison. But small language models, that's the latest acronym for the week.
Interesting. John, are they a subset of a large one? In other words, widely diverse across the topics, or is a small one, like, let's say we're in the chemistry realm, it just focuses on chemistry?
So the architecture is like a hybrid model where you can do some of the processing locally and then run all the hard all the hard compute, all the big compute in the cloud. So that's the architecture that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Thank you. Courtney?
Yeah, and I was wondering, John, do you need any neural networking cores like you would have in a GTX, or an RTX NVIDIA board to process those faster, or will just a stock Mac be significant enough to do it?
It's definitely going to be faster if you have neural cores. I'm on an old Intel on my iMac Pro. I have no neural cores on this, and they run fine. They run slow, but they still run.
So it's just a matter of speed and efficiency. Yeah. Interesting. Next question.
John Nichols in Concord, California. I've got 2 Varipoles in my home studio. I'd like to run a crossbar between them and hang lights off that crossbar. The lights aren't heavy. I don't have floor space for 2 C-stands. Any out-of-the-box crossbars for Varipole, or is this a do-it-yourself?
Let's go with John Pretto. Yes, John Pretto.
So, John, you just articulated exactly my setup. I do exactly this. I have a stand-up desk against the wall over here, and then I have the 2 Varipoles behind the desk, and then I have a piece of truss, a little 4-inch piece of truss in between the two Varipoles with big giant. What are the big clamps called? The magic
super
clamps.
Mayfor clamps.
Connected.
Are you using super arms or
the Manfrotto giant clamps to hold the truss to the auto poles?
Yeah.
And I could put 100 pounds on that easy, and it works like a champ, and it looks good because it's aluminum, like you'd see in a studio, and you can light it up with lights, and it looks really cool. So that's exactly what I do.
Let's go to Mitchell Hill.
John, here's another way you can do it. I did it this way using just one. Is I set it up behind me to go horizontally on the ceiling, and the trick is if you're going to push it against the wall, make sure you put a piece of wood there so you don't punch a hole in the wall. But I've got quite a few lights hung on that. As you can see, one pole could do it all.
And I'm going to try to do the same thing. Let's see if I can punch up the shot successfully. Oh, great. It's turned on its side. Well, that's not good, but that's what I get for trying to use my phone for this. If you can see up there, the goalpost arrangement, I've got cross beams going across the ceiling. I've got goalposts down, and then everything is usually hung with Mayfor clamps or some other things. There's a couple of different particular things that I found that have been good pieces of hardware. Manfrotto in their auto pole system has things that'll attach inside one of the crossbeam poles and kind of expands. It's a little bit like the Bogen Manfrotto backdrop holders, and I find those very useful because they provide a way to turn a right angle easily. So I got a bunch of those to go with my Manfrotto the auto poles and the super clamps, and they've been very helpful. So, but there's a lot of stuff out there. So do auto pole accessory search. You'll find a lot of things to make this easier. Let's go to the next question.
From Samuel Nordvik in Norway, in your opinion, who makes the best sounding mic preamps on the market, and in what products do these appear, and what are your follow-up semi-affordable ones?
Let's go to Mitchell Hill.
It's interesting because preamps can also mean that from specs, they may sound great and have excellent specs, but some preamps have their own character and sound, and that makes them very sought after. In my case, I'm a big fan of Neve, and I have a Neve 8801 behind me. It has its own character, its own kind of a sound. If you're going to go into something a little more exotic, an Avalon mic pre will work really well. And if you want an everyday good price, semi-affordable, Sound Devices mix pre's are a great source to go to.
Alex?
Yeah, I mostly look for quiet. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of folks that want something. If you're getting a Neve or you're getting some other things, they're looking for warmth. Or they're looking for a certain, kind of analog processing there. But what I want is as quiet as possible. I'll do all those things later. So I just want to be able to get the thing. And so for me, again, some of the best preamps are the Sound Devices preamps. But there's a lot of very high quality mixers that are going to have those. But it is something that you start to pay attention to, especially if you start to listen for self noise. You'll start to become more sensitive to it.
Courtney?
I have some Sound Devices 744Ts, and they have great preamps in them. I also like the Nagra XOYO200s, which were great preamps. They're transformer coupled, but they didn't do 48-volt phantom. They did have a later ones that do 48-volt phantom, but the Nagra preamps were really great and really low noise and very low current. You could run them all day long for a little bit of current.
Well, let's go to the next question.
John Fisher from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I have been overly happy with my Shure MV7, looking for something a little smaller around the same price range. Side address is acceptable. Primary use is for Zoom and Teams meetings. Any suggestions? Alex?
Well, I copied Courtney, and I'm using the Stellar X2. It is a side address. You can see it right here. Right here. This is where it is, right there. And I love it. I mean, it's for $200. I think it's a great mic. We tested it head to head with the Neumann TLM 102, which is a step below what Bill and Chris have, and people liked it better, like the stellar sound for at least my voice. So I think it picks up a lot more of the detail in the voice than the MV7. Now I will say, I send the MV7 out to people to be on our podcast. And the reason I do that is because it has a lot of off-axis rejection. It's easy to set up, and it's just hard to do it badly. There is a lot of ways to do this one badly. So you do have to think about your room and how busy your room is, because if you I have a bunch of sound blankets around me. If those aren't up, this mic is not usable because of the reflections.
Mitchell.
If you don't like the MV7, you're probably not going to like my suggestion of the SM7. The SM7B are quite available nowadays because of the 7DB, which is being sold. People are trying to get rid of their old ones. It's a tricky question because it's really subjective. It's not quantitative. So you have to listen to a bunch of mics to be able to decide which ones you like. And yeah, there's a lot of people here using the Stellars and they work great. But sometimes appearance isn't quite what it appears to be. For example, Alex just bought a U87 for $20. And
we decided it wasn't worth it.
I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
It's U87-ish.
It's a mic. It's got it has an outer shell that looks like a U87.
It's a stunt mic now.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Courtney, your thoughts?
Well, I was just trying to deal with, I was looking myself for a portable mic that I could travel with. And so I bought yesterday one of these. I won't get it till Christmas because this is my Christmas present. Is this Rode NT USB Mini Versatile Studio Quality Condenser microphone. That's $100. It's a USB interface. It's small, has a little travel package that it comes with, a little case, I think. You can see what kind of size it is there. So I'll try it out and see how good it is, because I just, don't want to pack up the Stellar and put it on an airplane and then deal with having to drag along a mixer or an interface for it, because, I need 48-volt Phantom, et cetera, et cetera. So I figured, if I'm just traveling with a laptop and I want a portable microphone, I'm going to give that Rode a shot. I think you had one, Alex. How did you like it? Did you use that one?
Don't like it. so there you go. Should have asked me. I was just thinking, you should have asked me.
I thought about it. I was going to ask you.
We've had shows. We had a client that wanted it for all of their folks. They just decided that's the price point they wanted to pay, and that's the one they want. And they ordered it without really talking to us. So we got to use it. I mean, it's not bad. It's not like it's not. It's
well, like I say, it's only when I'm traveling, and it might be better than I have an old Pile, headset mic.
It's going to be better than the Pile, 100%. Yeah.
I figured it would be better than that.
I take a DPA with me, DPA, and then put the mix pre in. I find that the mix pre with noise assist is way more important when I'm on the road than at home, because hotels, with the fans that you can't turn off and everything else, and so yeah. But mine all fits into a little. Everything in mine fits into a 1510 case. It's probably more than you want to take, but it's light. That's the lights.
I want something stand. I can put in my laptop case.
Oh, pshaw.
And it might work perfectly. One of the things weird that I've noticed, I've been doing voice work for 40, 50 years, is that I work differently with different microphones, and particularly it takes me a couple of months to get used to a microphone. When I first bought my Neumann TLM 103, it sounded too thin for me for a while, but after that I thought, no, it's now sounding pretty good. I'm not sure. The mic didn't change. I think what changed was me. Having a loop where you're hearing how you're performing into a microphone and adapting your performance to the mic's strengths and weaknesses is a real thing I've found. When I started doing the audiobooks, it took me 2 books to get used to how I needed to perform for that microphone in that setting. And when I go into the voice booth, because somebody's doing work on something like that, I find I put the mic at a different distance and I address it differently and I perform differently. So it's really interesting. Everybody's voice is different. Everybody's recording situation is different. And the mics have character, which is a real thing. So it's a matter of getting used to how to work with this mic in this circumstance. At least that's what I've found across my career. I've used 100 different mics. I used to go into studios all the time to do voice work. Whatever mic they hung in front of you is the one you used. They all got the job done, but the engineers understood what that mic's characters were, and in EQ and everything else, they would address some of the shortcomings of the mic itself electronically, and the performances all got paid for and worked well. Mitchell, you have some other thoughts?
I was just going to say, when you walk into a studio to do voiceover and you have nothing to do with that studio, I bet 9 times out of 10, there's a U87 hanging there or maybe a 414.
I didn't find that. I found at AKG, there were certain microphones that were popular at certain times. For a while, 2 of the 3 main studios I did work for hung AKG 414 VULSs or TL2s, which was a transformerless model. When I first started, my first studio gig, I bought the mic from them. It's up on the shelf up there. It's a Shure SM5B Fat Boy. It's got the big foam thing around that. And I used that for probably the first 100 voiceovers. And I didn't use it. The engineer in the studio stuck that up and said, stand here and talk into it and do the spot. And, you know, you sank or swim not on the perfect quality of the recording. That was the engineer's job. You sunk or swim based on whether you could get the copy done right. But literally, I was on shotguns. I was on large diaphragm condensers. I did a whole bunch of TV stuff at a TV station, and they literally put an SM57 on a stand in the tape room for me, and I think I did 20 episodes of that TV show that way.
So I guess what John is thinking about, well, John, I'll just say it to you, is that all these mics have different character, and there's a multitude of different choices that you have out there. You got to use your own ears to decide.
Yeah, use your ears and live with them a little. That's the other thing I'm trying to say is that don't think if you turn it on and you sit in front of it and you do a recording and you say, yeah, I'm not sure if it's really right. It may not be right. You may be absolutely correct, but it may be your experience becomes like mine with the 103. I learned to work it correctly, and I use it for all my audiobooks now. Alex?
And if you're not sure, I very carefully, when I buy stuff off of Amazon, I take as little out as I need to. I try to make sure I'm very careful with it, and I test it. And if I like it, I keep a lot of it. I keep enough of it that Amazon doesn't complain about the fact that some of the stuff I just go, well, this isn't going to work. And I send it back. But the key is to keep all the paperwork and all the other stuff. I've gotten very good at having a shelf that has things that the return time hasn't expired. Like I had my new, I made a mistake with my SteTech 8 kVM. I needed 8 instead of 4, and I forgot about it. I bought it, and I was like, oh, it makes a really loud beep. And then I found out that it expired like a week ago. I was going to send it back, and so then I had to do surgery. Last night, my son and I, we opened it up and just tore the speaker out. I guess now it's much quieter.
Nothing a pair of wire cutters won't fix.
Yeah, we removed the tongue. So anyway.
All right. Fun discussion. Let's go to the next question.
And it's from Burkhard Friedrich in Eastenberg, Germany, looking for recommendations for a digital mixer. For a venue, we needed automated faders, minimum 6 in, 6 out that can be controlled over the network.
Alex?
Yeah, the one that the automatic one that most people will lean into is something like an X32, and if you have an X32 rack with a X Touch, you can put that X Touch anywhere, and you've got like a little piece of hardware that just jumps on the network. You know, you can tie it in over Ethernet to the. I don't know if you can do it over the network. I'm sure you can. Just haven't done it. Anyway, but that's the so the X32 rack is probably the thing that a lot of people will lean into for that. An XR18 is another one that Behringer makes that's there. I'm not really that happy with less than $7,000 things other than the XR18. I haven't really found anything I liked very much. There's also the DM3 if you want to go a little up. That's the Yamaha. So it's a great form factor. It'll definitely have the channels that you're looking for, and all of those are things that you can log into with an app. The nice thing about even the XR18, you can walk around with an iPad. You can always see people using them. They're walking around with an iPad, adjusting things while they're in the room to get it to where they like it. And so those are the probably the ones that I would look at: the XR18, the X32, and the DM3. It's kind of at the top of that end for that number of channels.
Let's go to the next question.
Jack Rupel from Breckenridge, Colorado asks, I have a QooCam Ego stereo camera, and in anticipation of spatial video in iOS 17.2, watched VR 180 all horrible, too close cross-eyed vids. How about some guidelines?
Alex?
You watch the... Yeah, I haven't used the QooCam. what I would do right now is that the iPhone 15 is now, I'm trying to figure out whether you are, with 17, you can, of course, get the beta, so I have the beta. The problem is a lot of the tools aren't there to really do a lot of work with it yet, there's nowhere to watch it. So, and there's no way to separate those things out at the moment. The big thing is that you've got a couple problems a couple challenges. One is that if the interaxial distance gets wider than your interocular distance, you're going to feel like your head's being stretched. Also, the other thing you have to worry about is convergence. Most of these cameras don't have any convergence. They're just looking straight ahead. That has a kind of an odd feeling to it that you have to get used to because convergence makes a difference. It's where the lens is. So when we work with higher end systems, we're literally tilting the lens into what we're focusing on. And I'll be very curious to see how Apple kind of handles that. Because the interaxial distance is so small on the iPhone, I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal. You're only going to get, I believe you're only going to get a feel of 3D in 5 to 10 feet. From the camera. Everything else will kind of flatten out because the interaxial distance is so small. But you'll get some, and it'll feel cool when it works. That's why when they talked about, like, a reviewer was like, they were making sushi right in front of me, and I could see it. It had dimension. It's because they were right in front of you. so that's why that worked. And so I don't know for sure, but what I will say is the most important part of shooting 3D is to shoot a lot of it. I've shot thousands of hours of 3D footage. And it's just really hard. You'll get a sense, like I can look at something and tell you what's going to look good and what's not going to look good in 3D. And most of the time we haven't been able to do that. Like people don't give us the access that we need to do that effectively. So we get put in a bad place. But when we're allowed to be put into the right place, when we're able to design it, we've had a couple where the team that we worked on gave us exactly what we asked for, and the results are stunning. But it's really building up a space in front of you. With a 180, you're not moving, so you don't put it on a moving camera because that'll make everybody really sick. The second thing is that really all of your actionable content is less than 15 feet away. If it's more than 15 feet away, it's not going to matter. It's just a 180. You can just do mono at that point. And also because of the resolution for most of these, you don't want to get too far away because it just looks soft. So those are the kind of things you want to think about. And then you want to think about composing in 3D. So when you think about it, having things in front, but not too cut off. When things are, if you have a chair that's in front of you that a large portion of it's cut off, it kind of creates this phantomness that is your mind doesn't know what to do with. So you can have things coming in out of the scene, but large chunks of things that are then going off the screen sometimes just don't feel as comfortable if you leave them there. So those are the kind of things. But the best thing to do is do a lot of it. And this little QooCam, you got it, and you're getting. I don't know why you have cross-eyed videos though, unless somehow you're swapping the eyes. That would definitely make you feel cross-eyed if the eyes were somehow swapped. So make sure that the eyes are correct there as well.
Let's go to the next question.
Roscoe Jones from Madison, Indiana. Who could be trusted with yesterday's media assets? And there's a link to the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah, I find that real interesting. That particular link says that they're talking about Ringo Starr, the Beatles now and then, the John Lennon performance. And we are seeing so much with AI in terms of being able to bring back historical content and use it in new pieces of content. And I'm just still amazed and pretty impressed with what Miss Swift is doing in terms of she didn't like the fact that somebody else owned all his masters and stuff like that. So she said, the heck with it, I'm just going to redo them all. And so intellectual property is going to be a coming difficult challenge in this new world of derivative works. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, it is a. I don't think that they did anything to his voice. I mean, other than clean it. Like I think that would be. I think that they would have been too purist, given that the Beatles were actually involved in it. I think it's probably unlikely. I think what they probably did, they might have used AI tools to clean it, to separate it from other things. But I doubt that they changed the voice because I don't think they would need to. I don't think it would turn out very well. So we're not quite there yet.
Courtney?
Yeah, with spectral sound, they can kind of clean up. They use those tools these days to isolate the sound of the piano and remove it and leave mostly Lennon's voice and fill it back in with a similar sounding tone and timbre if there's anything that got pulled out of a specific frequency and that made his voice sound funny. I think in order to guarantee that your assets will be around and properly attributed to you in 100 years, is you need to develop the freeze-dried lawyer, intellectual property lawyer. You can just put him in a can, put him in a salt mine somewhere, thaw him out 200 years from now, and he will look after all your intellectual property.
Is somebody right now tapping into the databases to get that URL, freeze-dried lawyer? Because I think it's got some value. Alex?
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what the next generation does with this and whether they care. You know, I think that one of the things that is that I find fascinating about TikTok, for instance, is that TikTok is very derivative. That is the culture. They put up audio hoping that you're going to do something else with their audio, with their video, with their content. And so I wonder whether the next generation is going to really care about IP in the way that we do. Because I really feel like, you know, shorts is pretty good, but I don't get caught up in watching lots of shorts on YouTube. And I realize that part of it is there's a shared experience, like you seeing how someone takes an audio clip and does their own version of that clip for how it relates to them with their own experience. And I think that that's part of the entertainment, you know. And I think that these collaborative platforms, I don't think TikTok's going to be the only one. And I think that is it's kind of the next generation of memes. You know, is that the memes are everyone's part of it. You know, there's a meme, like there was one for the unbearable weight of greatness or whatever that movie was.
Lightness of being.
No, not being, of greatness. This was the Nick Cage
the
one.
Sports
the Nick Cage one, yeah.
And there's a shot where he's in the car and there's a song and he's in the car and he's with the other guy, and they're both like looking at each other, kind of one smiling and the other one looks concerned, and there were like 250,000 versions of that came out on TikTok that took that movie, took like 10 seconds of that clip, and literally the reason I went to watch the movie was because the clip was so funny, how people used it. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how we do this as far as you know, who can be trusted. I think if the Beatles can't be trusted to take someone that was deceased from their own band and do whatever they're going to do, I think that nobody can be. Like that's about as far as it goes. I'm sure that Yoko Ono probably is getting a check and she probably heard it and she's probably happy with it. So I don't think that I don't think it's that far off.
What fascinates me in this era is what is it that makes a singer a singer? And I'm thinking of it in this context. John Lennon had all sorts of things that were part of his singing style. So do most other singers. I kind of learned this. I went to school on Frank Sinatra for a while, and I was listening to a song of his, an old one called Witchcraft. And I was just fascinated how he never really starts a phrase on the beat. He would either anticipate it or lag it. And that was part of jazz. That's part of his jazz training coming up as a musician. So if you took John Lennon's aspects that are encoded in AI and you assigned, say, Garth Brooks's voice to it.
And they do that already.
What would it sound like?
They're doing it. I mean, they're doing those already. I mean, they're pretty funny. Like I have to say that I know people are grabbing their pearls, but they're pretty funny. Like they have people singing Frank Sinatra and people singing. Now, like, am I going to listen to that like on Spotify? No, but as a 15 seconds or 20 seconds of watching a funny video, it's pretty darn enjoyable.
You can find Johnny Cash singing Barbie Girl. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. I bet. So for me, though, it's the process of what is it that makes that person's original style unique. How much of it is phrasing? Is it tempo? Is it pitch?
It's all of it. I mean,
it's all of it. Yeah.
You know, like for some reason I've gotten I can't do it yet, but I can't think. Anyway, I love figuring out when people, you know. I find it interesting that looking at how someone impersonates somebody, what do they grab onto? You know, because when an impersonator is impersonating someone, they're not impersonating them. They have grabbed onto certain values of what they do and accentuated them, you know, and to make that work. So looking at people impersonating someone, I find to be hilarious. And one of the cheats that I had when I was used to do a lot of voice acting is someone would say, I want you to sound like somebody. I didn't look for the person. I looked for the people impersonating them. And then I just impersonate them. It's a lot faster. Like I can do that in hours, like not, so because you're just looking at, I see what they did there. And then
they emphasize the unique qualities rather than everything.
Yeah. And there's some guys on TikTok and on YouTube that will tell you how they're doing it. And they say, this is how you get to this voice. And it's really fun to watch. And because they'll say these are the things that makes this voice recognizable as this person are these things that they do. Anyway, we ran through.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't paying as close attention as I should have. So welcome to the second hour. Great to have you here. We're going to continue our Q&A all this week, as a matter of fact. We are continuing on Q&A. So let's dive into our next question.
And diving away we are with a QR question coming in from Mark Sanderson in Chesterfield, UK. I have never used a camera with SDI output before, and Amazon has cheap BNC cables designed primarily for security cameras. Will these work with a 1080p PTZ camera with an SDI output?
Alex, help us out.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 75 ohms, it's probably going to work. It really depends on how far you're going. So where the cables matter, under 6 feet, everything's going to work. As you start going to 50 feet, 75 feet, 100 feet, the quality of the cable starts to matter. Like, for instance, we can even get the impedance wrong at 6 feet. We've had things where I opened it up and I was like, this is an antenna cable. It's at 50 ohms instead of 75. So the SDI is at 75 ohms and your antennas for your audio is at 50 ohms. And you can use the wrong one at, up to 10 feet or something like that, and they'll both work. For 1080p, maybe not for 4K. But I would recommend generally getting cables that are rated for 3G or 6G SDI. The least expensive way to do this, if you're willing to spend a little time on it, is to buy. I buy my SDI by the 1,000, so by 1,000 feet at a time, and then I cut it and terminate it myself. So that's the cheapest way to do it. It'll cost you about I think it costs about 30 cents a foot. So it's that gives you a sense of, and then the connectors, and I buy really nice connectors, so that's a little more expensive. It might cost $1.50 for both ends. Yeah.
Courtney.
Yeah, there used to be a big problem with this because, some of you young whippersnappers may not realize it, but networking used to be done over a coaxial cable at 50 ohms. And a lot of that cable is still out there for doing network, 10 megabit type networking. And they have 50 ohm connectors on them, and they're 50 ohm cable. But like Alex says, you probably want to jump up from an RG59 if you're going any length over 100 feet or so. Amazon's got a bunch of, and it's Barbie pink, these cables that are 3G, 6G. They're rated for SDI, and they're RG6. So it's the fatter cable. It's a little less flexible, but they make it in a variety of different lengths. And it's fairly reasonably priced. So that might be a better way. I don't know how cheap you're getting those old security camera cables, but I'd be careful because they're probably RG59 and they're not really well made. So anything longer than about 50 feet may be a problem for sending SDI 1080p.
And if ordering Barbie pink bothers you, just rebrand it as salmon. Mitchell?
Yeah, you got to be careful. There are two types of BNCs other than the size difference, the 50 and the 75 ohm. They're for different uses completely. Best to buy something that's branded as SDI capable, as has been said here previously. And in some cases, the 50 ohm cable won't fit on a 75 ohm spigot, depending on which version of cable you have.
Alex?
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm kind of amazed at how cheap SDI has gotten on Amazon. I mean, even stuff that says SDI is rated for 3G, 6G, so on and so forth. I mean, at 150 feet at $50, I don't know if I can make the cable that cheaply. So it really has, dropped off in price. I would think about, it's not just plugging it in and seeing if it works. You're going to want to plug it in and see if it works, move the cable around, and you're looking for snow, little bits of things that are appearing and disappearing, because SDI doesn't necessarily just turn off. It will just degrade the signal as it goes through. So you have to be very kind of careful of that.
Let's go to the next question.
Vixenese in Lowell, Indiana. Shure MV7X on sale for $161. I only need XLR. How does it compare?
Mitchell?
Well, I think it compares nicely because that is the XLR-only version. The USB version is the MV7. The X specifies that it's only XLR. So just remember, with an XLR output, you need some kind of a interface to get into your computer.
Alex?
Yeah, it is at $161. It's probably one of the best mics you can get at that price. It is the MV7. It's going to have the off-axis rejection. It just doesn't have the USB, and the USB is not great. We're thinking about converting all of our MV7s and adding this Shure converter to them because the micro is so bad in that. If you're using it and you're setting and forgetting, it's fine. If you're sending it out to people and they're using it all the time, it gets loose. And so that's been the problem we've had.
Next question.
From Andre Dole in Berlin. Alex, watching the stop-motion snips today, I repeatedly had the desire to see more details, but as you're using a Blackmagic capture device, the blacks are crushed. I bet you have some other device laying around. Why not use it for better blacks?
Alex.
Yeah, so here's the problem. I have thought of that. It has crossed my mind. The problem is that I bought an SDI version, but I just never made the switch to SDI for the Mini Extreme. The challenge that I got myself into was that I have two outputs. I have two HDMI outputs without the USB output, and one HDMI is my multi-view, and I need that in front of me, so that's there. The other one is going to my Wacom tablet. And so my Wacom tablet, and if I put it through a splitter, I try to put it through a splitter, I can feel it. And it bothers me because my video is just a little behind my pen. Like, it's super subtle, but I can just feel this lag in it that I don't like. And so I did try it that way because that's exactly what I was going to do, because that is the program, right? That's the program going out. What I'm going to do to fix this right now, and I started playing with this, is and I had this set up on my last one. It wasn't a problem before, and then when I flipped my room, I just lost it, and I just have to spend the time to do it. The key is for me to set that monitor output to match the blacks on that are being generated by the ATEM. So, like when I had the ZV1, the Z1, which I've taken, or EV1, I can't, EZV1, whatever it is.
ZV-E10.
No, the one, not the 10.
Oh, the one?
The higher end one.
Predecessor.
It will let me do LUTs, and so what I started doing is adjusting for the blacks. I'm a little bit more punchy today because I switched back to the FX30, and because I'm tired of the Z1 stopping. So anyway, not that I'm bitter. But what I'm gonna do is what I did with the computers before, which is that I'm gonna take my color corrector and put it on an output that is coming. It's coming from my computer into the switcher and then full screen onto a monitor. And then I'm going to put my color correction, my spider, onto it and let the spider fix it so that output, what's being generated, is correcting for the whole color pipeline. And I had that done before and it worked perfectly. And I just haven't, until you brought it up, I was like, oh, that's probably a good time. I'm about to tear this, but I didn't tear it apart yesterday. Yesterday I got busy, but today I'm tearing my system apart and putting it all back together because it goes nice and clean, and then it becomes slowly a hive as I change things. And it's at maximum hive now, so that means it's time. And usually I wait for some holiday weekend to tear it apart. So anyway, so I'm going to tear all the. I'm building the pipe. I'm building my diagram for it right now. Like, it's half done. Like, I was like, because I'll have a lot of things here. So I got to figure out the diagram. And then I got to build the EDIDs, and then I have to there's a whole bunch of things that happen on my end. Anyway, there you go.
For the people who are obsessed with tents, here you go. Mitch, next question.
John Fisher, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Another question for the Tent Talk. Have you ever seen an event tent open in the middle to allow a large tree trunk to pass through? And would this be a custom fab job?
Alex, take us back into tent world.
I have seen it. I've seen it quite a few times, actually. People love building tents around trees for some reason, but it's always custom. There's no tent that does that I know of, and usually they're using truss. So they'll build a truss network on it, and then they'll pull it, And for the ones that I've worked on, the panels that were used were custom built for that truss, to be put over it. Maybe some event company has the special tree version of their tent, but the ones that I've seen done have been, and it looks really cool. I will admit, when you go inside, what they did is they built all the tables around the trunk. It's a pretty big trunk. Built all the tables around the trunk, and there were a couple little things there, and they had a big truss, and you could they left it a little bit open so that you could look up and see this huge tree. And I thought it was an amazing activation for that, but it feels very cool. But I don't know. They built that. I mean, it was a design. There were meetings. There were budgets. All those things.
It wasn't just a sales guy going, "Do you want any tree portals in this one?"
My guess is the cost of that was probably in the 10 to 20 grand, to have just for that tent. Yeah. But the activation was probably, $8 million activation. So it wasn't like it is a small detail in a very large project.
Courtney?
Yeah, I would say they would have to be custom because, every tree is different. So, the diameter of the tree has to be taken into account. If you're using it, it kind of wrecks the waterproof state of the tent. So water is going to leak down through the hole that the trunk is passing through. Also, if you've got low branches on the tree, how do you deal with those if the tent is going to be above them or below them? I think it's going to have to all be a custom deal. And it's probably not a good idea because in a windstorm or a lightning storm, lightning's going to hit that tree, and it's got a nice big grounding plane on it now for the lightning to run into, and the branches are going to crack off and fall through the ceiling of the roof. So I foresee a problem.
It's an apocalyptic idea. Let's go, Mitchell.
Yeah, is that tree trunk in motion? Has anybody asked that part of the question? Because if it's in motion, it's going to be a problem. And as Courtney just said, lightning likes trees. Why would you want to be under one?
Because it's gorgeous sometimes. That in my experience, art directors, you find somebody who's, oh my gosh, we've got a tree, let's use it. So anyway, next question.
Terry McAdams from Wichita Falls, Texas. The person asking about the iPhone with the name unnamed device should look in settings, Wi-Fi, and touch that little eye in the circle next to your active SSD. You should see the private Wi-Fi address and turn off the switch.
Oh, the SSID may be your portal to fixing that. Good. Alex?
You can. If you really want to see that phone, you can do that. But of course, we turn that on for a reason so that we can jump onto other people's SSIDs and it's not identifying our phone directly. So there's a reason that privacy is there. If I was sure that was the phone and that's what it did, I'd probably leave it that way and just know that that's my phone, and I wouldn't turn that off in general.
Next question.
Next one in is a QR code question coming in from Chris Widener in Indianapolis, Indiana. So my case is falling apart for my 12.9 iPad Pro M2. Recommendations for folding the case with and without keyboard.
Ooh, another religious discussion. Okay, Alex, dive into it.
I have the Apple one and I love it. Like I don't remember how much I paid for it. It works so well. Like it's such a enjoy to use. Maybe someone else builds a better case, but I just ordered it with the iPad. I have the one and the newer one. Let's see if this is the older one. Hold on. This is the newer one. And it was a huge improvement too. So this is but it pops up, it swings out like this. And I don't know. It's the only complaint that I have with it is that you have to put the pen on the outside and it falls off of my case in my backpack all the time. So it's hard to store with it, but that's the only, like if it had something to hold on to that, but I haven't found, I used to buy lots of cases and I just now get the Apple ones because they're built really well and they work well.
I have a total love-hate relationship with cases for mobile devices. I still use this most of the time on my iPad Pro. And the thing that I like about it, first of all, it's a monster. I think I could probably drop this off of the edge of a cliff and it would probably survive because it's incredibly thick. It has a shoulder strap, click on. It's got a desktop stand that folds down into it. And to Alex's point, the iPencil holder is exterior and really solid, and it has never gone away. So every time I've looked for the pencil, there it is. And I do love these hand things. If I'm out in the field and I need data or I need to monitor a shot, I just really like these hand straps that are big enough to let you really use this as an appendage on your arm, grab the pencil, write things. Don't have to look for a desk or any place to put my iPad down temporarily. But the downside of it is a big rig and it's complicated, and I don't like the way it fits in my backpack, and I don't like how it works in the luggage. So there's always these trade-offs. What do you want versus what can you put up with in terms of, I'd love a smaller, thinner one, but it wouldn't do all the things I want. Can't get things perfect. Oh, well. Next question.
Maxfield Hunt from San Francisco, California. Are we aware of any safe alternatives to Downy? Looking to download content from the web and YouTube.
Alex.
I'm not sure what the request is, why you're looking for something safe. Are you looking for something safer than Downy or cheaper than Downy? Downy is the best. Like it is, I use it all the time. So Downy is a program where you literally cut and paste the URL of anything that has any video on the web, and it just downloads it. And it downloads live streams. It downloads. It'll download it'll download all the segments for a live stream, which is a little bit of a pain. But it will just grab video off the web. If it's being delivered to your web page, generally Downy can pull it down. It'll also download the captioning and everything else if you want to. A lot of times we get, I'm presenting it here, or my wife needs it for one of her shows that she needs to have it there. And so but it's so quick and easy and fast. I don't know why. I wouldn't use anything that was free. And I don't think Downy's that expensive, but if you're on a Mac and you're trying to do this, it's the app to download stuff off the web, in my opinion. You could do screen captures or something else, but it's really the right one to use. It's worth it.
I use Downy as well, and I hadn't heard that about it not being safe. But
I think it's safe. I think he's looking for. I'm only guessing he's looking for something less expensive, because Downy is. I don't know how you get safer than Downy to download that stuff.
Interesting. All right, next question.
Junior Grant from New York City asks, Alex, I'm thankful for you and the Office Hours family. Like you, Alex, I enjoy the creative side of cooking. I have an idea for a mobile cooking show using family and friends' kitchens. What is a solid 2 to 3 camera setup and breakdown production kit?
Alex.
Yeah, so I'm working on that. I'm working on a little kit that's going to let me do that with basically a 1510. I think about things at 1510s because those are kind of the size I can check, when I go somewhere. The thing that I've been experimenting with is the Link 360s. So, and what I really wanted was to get Link 360s that I have an API for, so we can control the cameras, or someone can do it remotely. But right now, it's still a Link 360 with a laptop, and then those are really small and easy to mount. I'm sorry, the Insta360 links. We keep on saying the wrong thing here. So the Insta360 link, I still think is the best one to use. You can sit there and put them around, and what happens is you have a drop down in their software, and you can reframe them. And then basically where I'm kind of going is there's one wide shot with me talking. There's a close up of there's a close up of the burner and a close-up of the cutting board, and then if you added another one, there'd be something else that you might want to show. And those are the 3 shots that you really want in the cooking area. And you could even get, a Mac Mini with 4 of the, Thunderbolt inputs, and plug it all in there and run something like either Mimo Live or jump into Zoom or do those kinds of things. And then a couple of the what I'm going with it is the Nanlite 6Cs, which you can kind of just throw up in different places to kind of give you a little bit of light, and the either the DJI or the Rode Goes as a mic to go into that. And I think it's I've been building parts of that kit. I've been a little bit busy on my end, so I haven't done as much as I should. But that's the kit that I'm kind of playing with right now. And I think that it's a pretty solid cooking kit, and we're hoping to do more of it as we get to the end of this year. Next question. I'm sorry. I took over again. Go ahead, Bill.
I actually misread that question. I thought he was looking for a show about mobile cooking, like what Jose Andres does, go set up a kitchen somewhere for an emergency. I think
it's mostly going to different people's kitchens and cooking with them, which I think is a great idea. I love that.
Is the kitchen mobile or is the show mobile?
I think he's mobile. I think he's going to his friends' kitchens and using
that makes sense.
Which would be really cool. I love the idea. So I think that you could do that, and if you're on a Mac, you could do something with Memo Live. And cut between all those cameras, and I think it'd be a fun little show.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
Alexander Knight from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, Canada, asking, has anyone on the panel done their own mic repairs? I have a vintage AKG C414 BULS that produces a faint repeated ticking noise. I found the schematics document. Should I start with the power supply section?
Ooh, Mitchell, what do you think?
I say stay away from that. That's dangerous to go messing with it, especially if it's got any surface mount. But if it's old, they might be. It's like fixing a watch. You're not going to do it. The other problem is it might not be the power supply. It might be that your iPhone is too close to your microphone.
Oh, that's true. A little Wi-Fi interference or something. Yeah, Alex.
I would only do that if I didn't care about the mic. like when I haven't wired like XLR cables for a long time, which I haven't for a while, but if it's been a couple of years, I buy a couple dummy, like I just grab some cable and I grab some and I solder a couple of them to get back up to speed again. I don't just pick it up and start using it. And if I've never done it, I would never do it on an expensive mic. So definitely take this to a specialist and let them take care of it for you.
Amen to that. I had something needed to be soldered, and I haven't soldered in about 3 years. So I went out and I couldn't find my soldering iron, so I went out to buy a new one. I ordered one from Amazon. It was a nightmare. I didn't understand my soldering iron. I didn't understand the temperature. Everything wasn't working.
What did you get? Did you get a Weller or did you get something else?
No, I just got something off Amazon for $20, thinking I just got to heat this up. It's an old thing. It's a big wire. It's a big. Oh God, it was a nightmare. I didn't have the right rosin. I didn't. It was horrible.
Weller.
Yeah. Listen, I should have spent $50 instead of $19.95 for a soldering kit with rosin core solder in it.
Yeah.
Courtney?
I have repaired my own microphones, including Sennheiser's, but I won't touch the capsule. If there's any problem with the capsule needs to be rebuilt. I send it off to Sennheiser. But a lot of times, little ticking noises can be things like the XLR connector that's in the back of the microphone. I didn't look at this AKG to see what it is. It has a little set screw that holds it in. And if that set screw gets turned just a little bit and it gets loose, it can cause that thing to rock back and forth every time you move the microphone, and it'll click. It'll make a noise. So if that's what the ticking noise is, look for mechanical things first. And then if it's electronic, it might be a capacitor that needs to be replaced, especially if it's fairly old, a leaky capacitor. It depends on the type of capacitors that are in there. You may not be able to replace them very easily if they're vintage. So you might want to leave that to a professional that has stock for that particular microphone. If you can't find the exact replacements, I wouldn't attempt it.
I will say it's getting harder and harder to find technicians who can work on these classic mics too. There used to be a guy in Chicago who was famous. He would take all the old microphones, and he was just a guy who loved working on them. He had a beautiful bench. But I think maybe about 10 years ago, I heard he passed away and his wife sold out all his parts and stuff like that. So he's gone now. It's really hard to find somebody with that historic knowledge to be able to get in and work on these truly vintage pieces of equipment. So if you're thinking about doing it, do it now. There are fewer and fewer people who are capable. Let's go to the next question.
James Brooks in New York asking, is the iPhone 15 still having overheating issues, or has it been resolved? Thanks.
Alex?
Never had them. I've just never had a problem with the overheating. I've had a problem with overheating my Sony camera, but not my phone. So haven't seen this problem. I think most of it had to do with people doing. So I believe that most of it was because people were porting. They were doing that transfer where they transfer one phone to the other, and there's an enormous amount of work that your phone has to do.
Indexing.
And so for the first couple days, the indexing was like going crazy, and it made the phone hot. I don't do that. So as a result, I just install things as I need them. And so I just leave everything behind otherwise. And so I think I didn't experience that because I wasn't trying to do all that at one time.
Courtney?
And if you're trying to stream something, it depends on your distance from the cell tower. If you're far away from the nearest cell tower, it's going to crank the RF power up, and it's going to get that phone very hot. So it'll vary depending upon how you're using it and where you're using it. So some of those overheating problems may be caused by situations where the person wasn't near a cell tower and it was cranking up the RF power in order to hit the closest cell tower. And that will heat the phone up quite a bit.
We're moving to my favorite question of the day. Next.
It's from Evan Truxell in Talent, Oregon. I'd love to hear a couple of stories behind Courtney's hats. I know there's something there.
It's the Gooden Chapeau Collection show. We need to do that. Courtney, talk about your hats.
I get them from a variety of places. I get them from work. I get them from people. And for a while there, a former employee of mine was working in the PR department at Warner Brothers. So he would give me hats all the time. So I have lots of Warner Brothers movies hats. And some of them I have some of them that are signed by Chuck Yeager. I have some of them that are very old, the original MacGyver hat, because I knew the producer on that show. Sometimes I work on a lot of promotional stuff, so I'll get swag. They'll give you a hat if you work on the promotional stuff for a feature, so you don't even have to work on the feature. And then I have a lot of Dexter swag from working 7 years on that show, because I have jackets and hats, and there's a new hat every year. So you get the fourth season hat, the fifth season hat, the sixth season hat. I have a Glee hat because I worked on that show for a while. And at the end of a lot of times on a serial TV show, on a sitcom or something, each of the individual cast members may have their own hat to give out to the crew at the end of the season as a little parting gift, as a Christmas gift at the end of the season. So you collect a lot of hats that way. So just lots of hats. They all don't have original stories necessarily with them. Some of them, they are mostly functional to keep the sunlight off the dome.
Have you ever considered indexing and doing a database of your entire hat collection?
No, I've lost more hats than I have. I was cleaning out my car last night just to we're going to dinner, and I have to carry a lot of people in my car, and so I had to clean out the back seat. And I went, oh, there's that hat. I wondered where that hat went. It's under the seat for about a year and a half. I was looking for that hat. But yeah, they get lost everywhere they show up.
Next question.
A couple days ago, we were talking about using an avatar, and I asked stipple or head cut, which would you prefer for a portrait or that avatar picture?
Oh, Alex, what do you think about virtual?
They're both kind of the same. Like even if you do a search,
dots or lines, that's all.
But even when people say head cut, if you look at the Wall Street Journal, they'll consider it a head cut, but it's dots. So it's so I don't. Yeah, I would say if you're saying dots or lines, I would say dots. Like, I think dots is better than the lines. So that if that's what you're referring to, but again, I think that it's a very weird space because we could get into. I bet you there's a big argument here. We could spend a whole second hour of stipple versus head cut. Anyways, but what we're talking about is the look between what you see like typically on the Wall Street Journal. And I thought as we start to build up templates for the panelists, we may go through the trouble of, you can get these done, and we might go down that path and see what we can do.
Next step, it's some emojis and things like that. Just saying. Mitchell?
Exactly.
Yeah, I have a filter made by a company called Andromeda. I don't even know if they're around anymore that did that to varying degrees. Yeah, it wasn't really that well.
I love the guys.
Because you brought it up the other day, Alex, I went searching on YouTube, and there's a couple of really good tutorials. I was going to say a tut because people hate that. Tutorials that show you how to do it. And I agree, the stipple looked the best because it held the most resolution.
Alex?
Yeah, so no, I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, go ahead.
I was thinking back, my favorite representation of a person technology. You remember the opening of the Alfred Hitchcock thing? And some really serious artists, probably with a Japanese background because they used to be so brilliant at this, had done his outline in just like 5 strokes. But it was clearly Alfred Hitchcock. And an artist who is really good, who can capture a person in a minimal number of things. Pablo Picasso used to be able to do that brilliantly.
John Lennon did it.
Yeah. Those are the ones that I go, wow, like 4 lines and it's him. But that's really hard to do. That takes some serious artistic talent. Next question.
Patrick Olson from Eugene, Oregon, asking, just curious, does running a stack of Mac Minis call for a stack of UPSs to power them?
Alex, what say you?
One of the big advantages of the Mac in general is that it's very low power. So that's the big advantage that they have. I could probably run the stack of Mac Minis that I have on it's part of all the computers that I have are all on one 1500 VA, and I think it's rated right now at 18 minutes that it would run. So no, you don't need a stack of them. But I would get one or two large UPSs, large-ish, which are the 1500 VAs, or what I'd probably start with. I get those because that's kind of the minimum size where you can pull the battery out and swap it out. So that's what I generally get, and they're about $150 each.
Courtney?
Yeah, I agree with Alex. A big single UPS to handle them all. But what I used to do is I used to get these 11-inch notebook PC computers, and I would put, if the stuff is just supplying, still images or a running loop or something, if you're just using them as a video source or as a still source, it's not doing any heavy lifting. And I would use those because they have the built-in battery, and you can plug in their power supplies to them. They'll run 24/7, and if the power goes out, they keep running for another 3 or 4 hours. Without dropping a stitch. So, they'll keep running. So I repurpose my old laptops to run kind of in a headless mode with them. I set them up so that they'll run closed without going to sleep. And then if the power fails, the battery takes over. You don't worry for about 2 hours. The power comes back on. They go back on and they keep running. So that's how I repurpose all my old little laptops for video sources.
Next question.
Vic Hernandez from Springfield, Missouri. We don't talk about editing too much, and my question is, how do you like the first 2 minutes of this from PBS?
So I watched it. I saw the link, and so I went to look at it, and I liked it in general. I will say it looks a little dated. I think it came out of 2000 and, 15, 16, something like that. I have done things like that, and I tell you, it surprised me how hard it was to put together. And just to describe it without you have to sit through a couple of minutes and watch it. The editor decided to let the people who were the interviewees in the story tell the opening. So you cut from one person telling a line, and then the next person, very short snippets, and they build with multiple people, essentially the script for the opening of the show. It is a lot of work to do that, because while you might have the actual what they say, I know this is for me as an editor, when I sit down to cut it together, I always think to myself, do I have a smooth through line? Is it really telling the story well? And in those kind of circumstances, I often find that, of my first 5 little snippets, 1, 3, and 5 are great. 2 and 4 don't seem to fit in real well, and so I work a little bit to try to make it smoother. Can I edit it a little tighter or whatever? I found a little of that there. In the ideal world, I might be able to say, can you go out and reshoot those 2 things, or can you get that person? Are they available to just punch up those things so that it all seems smoother? I found a little erraticalness in that, but overall, I love the idea of getting away from third-party narration and let the people who are most central to the story tell the story if you can. It just requires more work to do it this way than to do it the traditional, either voiceover or scripted narration way. Alex, what do you think? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. The only part I didn't like is when they try to do green screen, because it didn't look very good. Their keys weren't great. They're a little hard along the edges, but the stuff of intercutting it, I think it's a great way to establish the experts that you're going to use throughout the entire show. So you're kind of, getting you into, these are experts and this is part of it. I thought it had a lot of great energy. I thought the animations looked really good. So overall, I'd say, yeah, this is a good example of some pretty great production. It is a lot of work, but PBS was, for some of these kind of, or Nova, Nova is kind of the gold standard for a lot of this stuff, close to the gold standard for a lot of this stuff, because they have the budget to do some pretty interesting things.
Very cool. Let's go to the next question.
Gordon Lake, Los Angeles, California. I purchased $50 Y-Star SDI to HDMI scalar converters for monitors that can't display 30p from switchers. They work, but all other scalars start at 3 times the price. Should I be worried?
Alex, you think you should be worried?
If it works, it's fine. It's just if it works for what you're doing, sure. The things you have to watch is it being unreliable. It may not last forever, so have a backup. Maybe get 2 of them or test them both. A lot of times power supplies don't work forever. Make sure to check to look at the monitor and make sure that you're getting the same color, that you're not getting any kind of breakup, that you're not seeing any kind of like very small little specks of light that might be going into the compression. But I've definitely had SDI to HDMI converters that cost $50. I buy ones from AView, maybe $80 or something like that. That work just fine, but they do break. I mean, they just suddenly, or you put them into some situation, they're like, oh, I can't do that, and you don't know why, because yesterday you could, and so I will say that when you're under $100 on an HDMI to SDI or SDI to HDMI, you're kind of in a place where I wouldn't use them for production. But I use them to deliver signals sometimes to, I won't put them into the core of my content. What I use them for is to put them on a monitor. I need another convenience monitor over here, and I've got cheap ones that are oftentimes taped to the back of the monitors. We just plug in the SDI and it goes HDMI out. And I have some of those that are really cheap. Like SDI to HDMI converters are like $30. Anyway, so those are, but I would, they're disposable, and I keep them in my backpack and throw them at monitors if I need them.
Courtney?
Yeah, I use a lot of the $30 ones myself, and have been happy with them. The one that you pointed to is good because it has SDI loop through, so that if you're sending one signal to a whole row of monitors, the same signal, like monitors in a lobby or something, you go into one, out of that one, into the next one, out of that one, into the next one. So you can only run one cable to all of them, and they seem to work okay. I haven't had any problem if they work at the resolution. They don't have really agile scalars in them. So if you hit it with a PSF, format SDI, it may choke on it. Or if you hit it with 1080i, it may not like it. Or if you hit it with 60p, it may not like it. So you got to be careful. If it works with your setup, I'd say they'll probably be pretty reliable if they're working.
Yeah, I remember reading a story about when VLSI, very large-scale integration, was coming into chips and things like that. They were talking about how a lot of things that used to take really complicated chip arrays would now get much simpler and easier. And I kind of think of these things as one of those. Somebody probably figured out a chip that had the ability to do most of this work, and they could get them inexpensively. So suddenly you've got a spate of new products that did something you used to have to pay way more for, did it cheaply, and did it pretty reliably. Not quite as good as the old flexibility.
And again, I would highly recommend not using these type for production in your signal flow. Like, I don't use them in the signal flow. I use them to deliver to monitors. I have extra ones sitting around, and I can put them out there if I need them. But do not put these cheap ones into your signal flow. It really will add a variable that you don't want to add.
Yeah, well, and that's protection and safety, and that's if your whole show is pivoted on this one piece of equipment and you've spent way less than you otherwise would have, may not be the best solution. I agree with that 100%.
If you use them in the signal flow, they may not carry audio. They may mess up your audio. There's a lot of metadata that goes along in that SDI signal that is carried along with it and may not pass all that stuff.
All right, let's go to the next question.
Douglas Carmichael asked, would there be a Mac OS equivalent to central control?
Alex?
I don't know. I thought that I haven't used central control enough to know. So I thought that you could still access it from a Mac, but I'm not sure what you're trying to. I guess the question is, what are you trying to do with central control on a Mac? Can it do everything that central control do? And I don't know the answer until you start talking about what you're trying to execute. So you don't want to match feature for feature between two things. You want to say, do both of these things solve the problem I'm trying to solve? So let us know what you're trying to do with it, and then we can tell you.
Yeah, I'm completely ignorant about the PC side too. Courtney, you're very, very well served in that. Do you? What does central control specifically do in the PC world?
I have no idea because I don't use central control.
Okay, there we go. So, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Maybe it's something I should look into, but I haven't.
Yeah, well, a lot of people talk about it, so let's give it a shot. All right, next question.
John Snyder, Reno, Nevada. What is QStar in AI research, and why does it matter?
John Pretto.
Courtney, as OpenAI turns, Courtney. Oh boy, this is the latest, greatest saga of the ongoing saga. QStar is supposedly this breakthrough technology that OpenAI had that was mentioned to the board that they've had some breakthrough, and it's called QStar, supposedly related to math, some very high-level math functionality, is all I've known. Reuters released this overnight, and so this is the latest, greatest technology that was supposedly released, brought to the board by Ilya. QStar, it's called.
Interesting. I've never heard the term before myself.
What does it do? What do it do?
So my understanding of it, based on the Reuters article and a couple other things that I've read as we've gone overnight, is that QStar it's a project. It's not necessarily a technology. It's just that's the project name for and a lot of times they're measuring intelligence when they talk about AGI. They're measuring intelligence by math. What math problems can it solve? Which I think is a horrible way to think about AGI. Like I think of thinking of it that's intelligence is, I mean, it's pretty limited because it's like the least complicated thing of intelligence. I mean, understanding people is the more complicated thing. So but they measure that. And so I think that right now it can handle, if I remember correctly, the kind of the known is like 5th or 6th grade math. So if it was if it suddenly jumped to, hey, it can do algebra or it can do trig or it can do something, because large language models, what they're really good at is grabbing a lot of text and then sitting there and just adding them together and putting it together and giving you something that looks reasonable. But if you start asking it to do math problems, a lot of times the large language model it's just not the way it thinks. It's not the way it works right now. And so they've been trying to get to a point where it can be precise. The idea is that math is a representation of being able to be logical and precise with that logic, and be able to manage a complex set of variables and then deliver a complex answer. And so if they saw some big jump from one math equation, I mean, John can correct me if I'm wrong, but if they saw a big jump from a math equation to another math equation, I think that's one of the things that QStar is really focused on.
Interesting. Next question.
Danny Grizzle from Longview, Texas, has a question for us. Vintage mic repair. I read somewhere that valves and vacuum tubes are only manufactured in Russia now. Parts problems?
I've heard the same thing. Mitchell?
Yeah, I've heard it, and I've also heard that there's a problem with the parts, but a lot of them have been stockpiled and or being imported from another place. But there are a bunch of different companies that do it. Soviet Tube, Reflector, SED, SPLB, JSC, Svetlana, Ilyanov, JSC, Voskod, and Novobrisk are some of the companies that are making tubes.
Yeah, I have found, I have some vintage mics, and I have gone out in the marketplace and looked for things, and it's getting harder and harder to find parts for them because they're old and rare. In fact, the SM5B I have behind me, one of the problems notorious for that is that the foam on it outgassed and it would just fall apart. So one day I saw a replacement for that, and I went online. I'm almost embarrassed to say it. I just wanted to refresh it, and I wanted it to look good, and I wanted to keep that old mic because it was historically my first professional mic. And I think I paid like $80 for a piece of foam that's undoubtedly worth $1.50 to manufacture, but you just can't find them anywhere. So somebody said, listen, they probably knocked them off and figured out they knew somebody had made phone stuff. So they made it for the aftermarket, and they got a couple of guys like me who said, I want this, and I'm willing to pay way more than it's actually worth just to refresh my old vintage thing that I love. If you can't find something like that, they're not big companies manufacturing a lot of these old parts. They just don't exist anymore. And some of them are going bad as they age. It's just the nature of the business. Next question.
John Pretto, Las Vegas, Nevada. I've got something to share on this happiest of days.
Alex. John, what do you got to share?
Alex, can I do a screen share?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the good thing about sitting in the hospital for several days is I got to search around on stuff that I don't normally search, and I came across this showroom was designed like 10 years ago. And because of the pandemic, this thing has really kind of taken off here lately. And I thought you guys might enjoy this. What this is a shop in London on Park Lane. You see on the outside bottom there's a fuselage inside the window there at this very, very high rent district here in London. And then what he did is connect this giant video wall to the outside of this jet here. And then he can actually show actual size jets as you go through and select. The actual interior that he's showing here on the video wall is actual size, so that the people can come in to the showroom. But more importantly, now he's doing all these presentations on Zoom.
And this is for customizing your own private jet.
Yes, exactly.
If you want a Gulfstream 650, this is the place to go.
This is where this is it right here. You go through these variables. You choose the plane, choose your range, choose the passenger, and it brings up the number of aircraft. And then you can drill down all the way to the range of how far the plane can fly, all the maintenance costs, et cetera, et cetera. The actual interior as life size as it could be with all the colorations. And he's doing all these presentations online now.
That's awesome.
And this is,
we need to get him on.
I thought, what a great use of technology, and you guys might.
It's great.
That is fascinating. And, you know, I used to do work for McDonnell Douglas, and I was talking to one of the people who said, you got to talk to Bob at some point. You know, Bob makes videos, but he only makes one copy of every video, and he does really well. And I said, what in the world? He makes one he makes one video and sells it. Turns out that he was doing the owner copies of custom Learjets. So he would go in and produce a copy. This is your jet. Here's how everything works. He would have everything produced, and one copy would be put on the table in the jet when the jet was delivered. And so,
you know,
the most bespoke process in the world.
Well, it can get deeper. I don't know how much detail I should get into. So, but let's just say a naval military, the budget for a naval military training system can be as much as $300 million just for one. And it's one. It's for that ship. You know, like
here's your manual.
Here's your manual. $300 million for the manual. Talk about a $150 wrench. $300 million for the. I thought, you know, when I found out, I was like, I could easily do that for $250 million. So anyway,
they had a whole hangar. They would bring in a jet, and they would literally tour through it and shoot everything and explain how everything worked. And then that one video, I think it was back in the days when it was VHS tape. We left with it.
I just want to know. My big thing is that I just want to know where the kitchen area where they make the little triangular sandwiches. That's what you want to know. I mean, you can get the seats and everything, but the best part of it is the little sandwiches. The little sandwiches are great. Anyway,
all right, let's go to the next question.
Rion Smith from Trinidad, West Indies. Thanks to the Office Hours team for guiding me to set up on-screen graphics via their suggestion of LumaKey out one HDMI of OBS into an ATEM 8 to 10% gamma worked well.
Alex?
I brought it up here. Hold on one second here. Let's see. Here's the here it is. I don't have the audio to it. I have to admit, I watched this little clip. I was like, I want to go. This isn't it. Hold on, it'll jump. It's a little longer. Hold on. I know. I didn't realize it was so long. I must have been very lucky. So this was. Let's see. Maybe it was. Sorry, I had it immediately, and I thought that I just happened to jump into it. This looks like, by the way, an amazing party that I. Let's see. Oh, I just ruined it here. Oh, there we go. There's one. I was like, I want to go.
Anything involving steel drums, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see here. He's got, this is, sorry. It was, here it is. I think it'll come up when they walk up here. I love watching what people who are watching Office Hours, you know, what they're doing with it. There we go. So let's see. I think that she's here. And I think when they cut to it, there you go. There it is. There's that lower third. It looks great. And that's just using a LumaKey. I mean, it's swinging in and I assume swinging out, but that's just using a LumaKey without any kind of key fill or anything else. And it looks like it works great. And it looks like again, let us know when you're doing these streams. We can live vicariously. All right,
That looked like SPX graphics kind of to me. They had,
yeah, but that was just. I mean, I don't know what he used for the. Oh, he said HDMI from OBS to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but the key is no key fill. That was just Luma keying, to put that out. Looks good.
There you go.
Great work, man.
Let's go to the next question.
Pedro Gonzalez in Oklahoma City asks, what is the best Black Friday camera deal that you're thinking of actually purchasing?
Oh, you left out the gobble gobble. It's the Thanksgiving question.
Gobble,
Alex?
gobble.
Camera deal. That's okay. I got thrown a little bit because I know that Chad had sent me something this morning that is going to be. Oh, it's I have a bunch of these small rig, the VB99s. These are the V-mount batteries, and they're $100 off, which is a lot, like a lot off. So I may buy a couple of those to add to my collection of them because you can never have too many camera batteries.
Ooh, next question.
Samuel Nordvik in Norway asks, Sony's ZV line of cameras stands for Generation Z Vloggers. And if it's included in the E in the model name, it signifies an E-mount for interchangeable lenses. Do you agree that Sony has failed with their strategy as Gen Z primary use their phones?
Mitchell, what do you think?
Well, a long time ago, I had a discussion with a Sony rep about VHS versus Betacam tape for your home viewing. And Sony's opinion on it was, we don't want to own a percentage of VHS because everybody's after it. We'd rather have 5% of the video market out there, and if that 5% is Betacam, we're happy with that. I think Sony feels the same way about their cameras. Yes, there's more Gen Zers out there using their iPhones, but Sony is getting more and more of that share of potentially low-end camera or webcam cameras. So I think they've got a plan, and it's a long-term plan.
Alex? Sony lost the Betacam VHS wars because of things I'm probably not going to talk about on the show, but they wouldn't do something that VHS would, and that was the deciding factor. They definitely tried to compete in that market, but they didn't because they drew a line in the sand, which I totally respect. But that line cost them the penetration.
But they owned 5% of the market completely.
They did until, the funny thing is the end of Sony Betacam, I think we've talked about this in the past, I think it was once a year, once every 3 years, or once every 5 years, I can't remember which, they would take the SR decks, the SR tape machine that was in LA and send it back to Japan, and they'd have it recalibrated. There's only two of them. There's only two of the ones that made the Betacam SRs. And every television station was based on Betacam SRs. And when they did it, the earthquake happened. And so the earthquake destroyed both of the machines, and they were so close to the end of are we going to use tape, that they just chose not to build them. And all of television went into panic mode. Like anybody that wasn't working on film or bigger things, I was digging through my thing because they were buying SR tapes for $1,000 each, just used, And of course, I couldn't find any because I was like,
are you referring to SP tape?
No, the SRs. These are the high res, the 444s. The the SRs were the 444 tapes. They were they're above
metal?
SP. I don't know if they're metal or not. I just know they're a lot more expensive than the SPs. Anyway, so but I had them because I was shooting 444, and so I had a pile of them that I couldn't find because I thought, who would ever want these again? And I found out that you should. The problem is this is how you become a pack rat, is that you throw things away and then they're worth $20,000. So 20 tapes sitting around. So anyway. Sony is crushing the market here. Like they are, I mean, just so you know, from a vlogging camera, I hate their naming conventions, but if you talk to creators, they're all using Sonys. Like, they have a Sony creator camp that they do talks and they do all kinds of things. They like 2 or 3 days where they bring all these creators in and they take care of them and they make sure that they understand how to use their cameras. They've really built lots of different versions. There's this overheating problem, but it only happens because we're using it as webcams. If I was using the ZV-E1 or whatever that I have here, it'd probably work fine. Or ZEV1. I can't figure that out.
ZV-E10.
No. I have a 1 as well. You keep on saying 10. I have both a 10 and a 1. There's the EVZ1, I think, and the ZEV1, E1, I don't know. Anyway, so I have 2 different cameras. They're very close to the same size, and they're obviously very close to the same name, which is crazy. But Sony is just nailing this market, and it's because of the autofocus. It's because the color science is working out of the gate. So it's not that the color science, like Blackmagic, can look like a Sony, can look as good, but it takes work. When you turn it on, it doesn't look as good, and Blackmagic should put way more into their LUTs so that there's things that you can select that look pretty at the beginning. Sony's look pretty when you turn them on, and so those are the kind of things that they've done really, really well. So when I see, it's like the penetration is 90-95% of the higher end bloggers. Yeah, people are doing some stuff with their phone, but eventually they graduate to a camera. And so far, Apple's starting to probably erode that, but right now they graduate to a camera, and 9 times out of 10 they graduate to a Sony, to do that. And so I think that they're doing really well in that area.
Nice. Let's go to the next question.
Paul Wallace in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Which is better, Lazy Boy, other recliner, or this?
I didn't look at the link, but boy, what a perfect Thanksgiving question, Paul.
I so want that.
It's a little dental looking to me.
I think it would look very weird. I think that jumping into Zoom from that would be a little too much. But I would say that the only reason that I just really I thought about getting something like this, and the only thing and there's ones that are less expensive. There's $3,000 or $4,000, and people use them for gaming and everything else. Number one is I think you'd look really odd in your Zoom thing. But the other thing is, because your face your skin would be different, and you would look very.
Maybe
I don't think
help
that's the
with
most
a double chin.
No, I don't think it would. I think it would make it much, much worse. And so anyway, but my big thing is, I think I would just go back to WALL-E. The movie WALL-E just has me always careful when I see something that reclines way back. I'm like, I do not want to end up like that. so I just go, I'm just not ready to, not, be running around on that. So, but it does look cool. It would be a conversation piece. There's not enough monitors. You need 10 monitors there, and then I might be interested.
Man. Courtney?
Yeah, I was going to say you could have your dentist come over and do a little work on your, incisors while you're
doing the root canal on the side.
The other thing I noticed is that the table at this angle, I have enough of a problem with my mouse pad that is now attached to my Lazy Boy. Your mouse is going to keep sliding off this table, as will your keyboard or your microphone or anything else that you put on it, because it's at such an angle to keep it at a good angle for your, with you leaning back, that all the stuff's going to keep falling in your lap. So I don't understand how that's going to work. And it's $8,000, and it's probably got that bonded leather finish that'll flake off after about a year and a half of sitting in it. So I'm sitting in a Lazy Boy. I'm sitting in a Lazy Boy right now, and like I say, the bonded leather flakes off after about a year and a half.
Oh man! All right, next question. Thank you.
Moving on with Douglas Carmichael. Douglas's question is, what kind of backpack do you prefer for your mobile production equipment? Would a backpack like one of these, without a padded space for a laptop, still be safe for a laptop?
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I use a Tactical 511 Rush 24. I've used it for 15 years. The one that I'm using now, I think, is this is not that. This is the one that he was suggesting, and I thought that maybe this was like some kind of camera case, but the one that I use is a let's see, Tactical 5.11 Rush 24, and these used to be when we this is what mine. Let's see. This is what mine looks like, and it's, but mine's black. So anyway, and I have, you can get your names. We would have our names printed on them. Put a logo here. I usually have a Pixcore logo here or whatever, and we even put them on the handles here because all of us had them. This was standard issue for folks at Pixelcore, so everybody had the same backpack. We just had names that were all on them, on the handles and everything else. Otherwise, we'd grab everybody's wrong one. Doesn't have a lot of padding in it. It does have a lot of pockets. When I need to pad things, it's got a big cavity there. Now mine is a little, hold on. It's hard for me to get right now. But because it's got webbing, the other thing I added was lots of webbing straps to it. So I can strap on a tripod on the back of it, and I can put other things on it. So mine's got more accessories to it. But it's extremely durable. I don't think any of them has ever broken. like knock on wood, but I don't think anything ever has broken on any part of this backpack. And you can put, if you have a smaller laptop, well, even the 16, the laptop and an iPad will go in the little soft area in your back as well. So then those are safe right against your back, and then everything else is in the front area. It's a great backpack. It's not very expensive. Right now, it is on sale for $100, and they have never given me one for free. So this is a completely sponsor-free recommendation that this is my backpack, and that is what I've been using for a long time.
At the risk of going a little bit long, because it's the top of the hour, we have a couple more questions, but we'll slide by because it is Thanksgiving. For me in backpacks, the only thing that I decided, I use a Case Logic, and the reason is the interior is bright yellow. And I have spent too many times in a production situation where I'm looking for an adapter or a cable, and it's in the corner of a black bag, and it's really hard to find unless I have my Magnite or something in my mouth. So I love backpacks that have switched to a brighter interior just for that reason. If I'm not in production, if I'm just using it, I'm fine with the dark ones. But that's personal preference on my part. Let's go to the next question.
Gordon Lake in Los Angeles, California. California is outlawing small gas generators. The Honda EU 2200i can't be shipped to a California address. What's a good alternative?
Alex, you want to start this off?
Yeah, ship to John Pretto in Nevada, and then have either him ship it to you or just go visit John. Say hi, hang out in the pool. So that's what I do. There's a lot of stupid things that California does, and when they ban something, I have friends in Reno, and I just have them ship those to. I use that address, and I have it shipped to Reno, and then they ship it to me. So that's and then enough of that. So.
I haven't heard about this ban. I know that Costco is selling these because I saw them in the store the other day, the Furman's 1,000 watts. And this is a triple fuel, so it can run on gasoline, propane, or natural gas. So maybe that might work for you in California. What is the reason that they're outlawing them?
They burn dirty. They just burn real dirty. It's like lawnmowers. Yeah. Lawnmowers are not.
Remember, there's just so few people that have them.
It's an air quality issue.
Like Karen. Yeah. Anyway, so but I it's such a the reason I'm so frustrated about this one specifically is that the Honda is that specific one is just the most elegant generator. Yeah. It's quiet. It's the most.
I have one. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I needed one, I would just send it to a friend in another state and get it there, and not whatever.
So we have another question left here. So let's dive in.
Last question from Idris Haji from Fairfax, Virginia. What an iPhone rig and tripod would you recommend for travel or recording short video in an office or home?
So many choices. Alex, what's your favorite?
For really doing production, I'm really happy with the Peak Design. So the Peak Designs have worked really, really well. Thank you, Hosmuc. The ones that I use for production are the small rigs. So the small rigs are there. The new Moment I'm kind of interested in based on the Apple behind the scenes. But the small rigs I think those are the ones that I have a lot of those laying around for a lot of different phones, and they've worked exceptionally well. And they mount the Moment lenses.
Courtney?
You wouldn't use a DJI Ronin rig or a gimbal of any kind? Or
I have an RS2. I wouldn't use that for iPhone rig. I would use I've used the Osmos for the iPhone. And those have been, the Osmos, and I have an Osmo for that. I was thinking of rigs, but I have an Osmo for that. And then I use the Mi Photo tripod. It's just really small, and it fits on that backpack I just showed you really nicely. So the Mi Photo is the one that I tend to use for that.
And I've stopped using all tripods in general for my iPhone shooting. I use only monopods. I have an old, pretty heavy one from Manfrotto that I like. I can mount both my iPhone and a light on the top of it because it's got enough weight to counterbalance that. But more often than not now, I'm taking out a small Amazon cheap monopod that's very lightweight, still gets up to my eye level if I want the stabilization of that. And I just find I like the fluidity of being able to use a monopod. And unless I'm shooting a speaker where I have to sit there for a half an hour, a monopod works fine for short shots. As good or better, I think, than a tripod. So that's me. Well, thank you all for being here. Happy, merry, whatever the correct word is, thankful Thanksgiving to you all in America. This is the holiday where we're supposed to reflect back and think about all the good things that have happened in life. This show for me and the people that I know from it has been one of the great joys of the last 3 years of my life, and I'm looking forward to continuing here for a long time. this does not run without everybody here who's watching me say these words. So thank you for being a part of the community of Office Hours. Thank you for your hundreds of incredibly intelligent and insightful questions that you've added in over the course of the year. Every one of you, even if you just come occasionally and watch a couple of things and get a couple of answers, this doesn't work without you. So we appreciate you tremendously. The panelists, an unbelievable crew of people that I am so proud to call associates and friends. It has been transformative in these last few years for me, and I think there's a lot of us who have been a part of the panel at one point or another who have felt exactly the same way. So thank you, everybody who's ever appeared in one of these boxes, for being a part of our lives for the last 3 years. And certainly, not at all least, there's a huge community behind the scenes who are pushing the buttons and connecting things and making sure the audio levels are right. They live in places all over the planet. And one of the most charming things for me about Office Hours is having expanded my personal group of people who I know by first name basis that I can communicate with and trade ideas with all over the planet. If I started naming them, it would take me a half an hour because there have been so many of the people who kind of honed their technical chops by working in the back end of this show. I admire each and every one of you. You have taught me so much. So to everybody who you don't see, watch this credit roll at the end. This is exemplars of the hundreds of people who participated in these things to make this show possible. I am thankful to each and every one of you. And at the top of the list, I'm just going to say it, Alex, thank you for making this happen in the original days. Without you, none of this would have been possible. And this has been a delight. Happy Thanksgiving, one and all. Thank you. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Release the balloons.
Every time someone says release, all I can think is release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken balloon.
This is how the problem with my mind is that it goes. Someone says release, I think release the Kraken, and then as soon as I think of Kraken, I think of the Pirates of the Caribbean review from Ask a Ninja, because I have fought an actual Kraken. They're not that hard. You've never seen the review. It's so the best.
Krakens are pushovers.
Exactly.
One of the last 2 minutes against Mothra. By the way, I've been watching that. Is it Apple TV? Whatever it is.
It's a good the Majestic.
Yes and no. But I find it fascinating. I'm just into episode 3.
Yeah,